If you are a softball or baseball player and you want more power, faster bat speed, and higher exit velocity, Swing Dynamics is the program for you. Rob Cruz has just released his Swing Dynamics Bat Speed Training Program. The system comes with 4 custom Pro Maple bats, online training videos, a mobile app, pregame, preseason, and off-season bat speed programs, and more. To learn more about Swing Dynamics, log on to www.complete.game. That's www.complete.game.
What's up, everybody? This is Rob Cruz, the host of the Transcending Sport Complete Game podcast. I have a very special guest, somebody you all know, Dr. Rick Pauly. Dr. Rick Pauly, welcome to the show again. How you doing?
Doing great, Rob. People are going to start thinking I'm a doctor pretty soon.
You are definitely a doctor.
I'm a doctor, yeah. In my own mind, I might be, yeah. Doing great here. Doing great here.
So how's everything going with you? What you got going on? Keeping busy?
Lots of lessons. Trying to help a lot of kids. Trying to help some kids navigate the whole recruiting process. It's
a little different now.
I think the last time we talked, it was about September 1st, and that's come and gone. And some kids got commitments, others are still nervous, and
I think a lot of kids what I'm seeing is a lot of kids are committing really early out of mostly fear that they won't get the school that they really want, so they're settling for the school they're settling for the guy that's asking them to the prom that's not the guy they really want to go to the prom with.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I'm seeing a lot of that, but I think what it takes now is still the same, but I think the circumstances are different because the schools have, in a sense, gotten the upper hand back a little bit.
Well, they sort of have. I mean, there's a lot of things, when we kind of go down that whole list between the portal, the NIL money, the legalities that are in play for next year regarding roster limits, how much scholarship money some colleges can give out. I'm curious, given what is potentially going to happen in the 25-26 season relative to the whole scholarship thing, what are college coaches doing right now? Are they adjusting their thinking, saying, I'm going to have a whole bunch more money to give out next year, and so if I wait on this kid that's a junior until she's a senior, I hope she's still there, but I'll have more money to offer her. And, where do you go with that whole scenario?
Here's how I would do it. And I think I'm almost certain a lot of schools are thinking along these lines. If I have a kid who I have a feeling should be good at my level, now I'm talking like the P4s now, I'm just not going to take her. I'll let her go to a mid-major, and then I'll get her in the portal.
Oh, get her next year.
I'll get her in the portal. At least she has a year of college under her belt.
Yeah.
She's been on a schedule. She knows how to lift weights. She knows how to get up and go to class. I can wait and get her for 3 years after she's already pitched a lot in the mid-major, developed her confidence and developed a little bit as a pitcher possibly, and then I can go ahead and snatch her up, based on what I need next year. And I think that's a really good strategy. And I think it seems like a lot of the bigger schools are using the mid-majors as farm systems.
Yeah, I have that feeling. I believe it's still not illegal for a college to contact a kid who's on the roster of another school and say, hey, if you happen to go in the portal, I certainly would like to get you committed. So I'm wondering how all that back channel stuff is going to work.
Yeah, but guess what? That's why you got kids and friends. My kids on my team can contact her. They all talk. They all play together. They all played against each other. They all been to
Yeah.
camps together. Most of these kids have been on 2 or 3 or 4 different travel teams. So they played with all the same kids. The parents know the kids. Hey, is she happy over there? Uh, and now I'm the player on that team recruiting. It's not illegal for me to do it, or is it?
No, um, somewhere along the line, ethics kind of come into play here. I'm not sure if there are too many ethics left anymore, but
I was gonna say ethics.
they ought to throw that word out of the softball dictionary.
Ethics.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So ethics. Oh boy. When you got grown men, travel ball coaches, contacting 13 and 14-year-olds on social media to get them on the team.
Yeah.
There's no ethics anymore.
Yeah. I guess at every level. It's not
It's
just
the wild,
up in
wild
the
west. The whole sport.
college level. Yeah.
So the people who were doing what they were doing at the travel ball level, unethical, no commitment, no loyalty. Why would they change in college?
True. I'm not sure they would.
The sport is what the sport is, so it's not gonna stop when you get to college. It's gonna be the same thing, probably worse. Because now you're talking about salaries and stuff. Now you're talking about thousands. So now it's even whatever they were in the travel ball level, they were that on a small level. You take that thing to college now. Now I'm really gonna let out the beast. You think I had no ethics before? I'm out. I'm going to the highest.
Well, I can throw out another thing that's going to it's going to muddy the water or make it more difficult for a mid-major. I believe is the roster limit, the scholarship limit will be going from 12 max up to 25. Now, who can afford 25 full ride scholarships?
The rich, only the rich.
The rich, the P4s, and maybe a couple others outside that, maybe, if they happen to have a really, really good football program that is profitable. I mean, I know numerous, and I used to coach at one of them schools, mid-major, D1, nice programs. They have to fundraise. Yeah, they got
Okay.
I got one the other day. I bought some popcorn from a kid who's on a D1 program because it was a fundraiser. Okay, I got another one. They do a 100-inning game every year, and kind of ask for or beg for money. Sponsor me in my 100-inning game. And those people are, they're going to be hanging on by a shoestring, so to speak, or a thread.
Let me tell you this. So, within the game of softball at the travel ball level, let's start at the top. And we've already agreed that so I think the SEC as a conference, you got to kind of put them over here.
I just went through.
You got to put them in a category. You got to put them because the SEC. If you watch an SEC softball game,
yeah,
it's good. For me, it's watchable. But
yeah.
When I go and watch games that are not at that level, it's hard for me to watch it. The kids are not bigger, stronger, faster. The arms in the outfield are like not the same. The balls off the bat are dying in the outfield, dying at the fence. It's a whole different level of softball SEC. So I never like to even when we were talking P5, I never really I hated P5 because it put the Big 12 and the Big 10 on the same level as the SEC. This is clearly not even. It's just not close.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, as you look at that as a model, then you got to look at even travel ball. Softball is a really big sport. It's huge. Just a lot of teams, and everybody's not playing the same softball.
Very true.
Nothing against rec and like travel ball that's local and regional, but it's just not even close to going and watching two top level teams competing in, like, let's say Alliance Nationals or PGF Nationals in the Final Four. That's right. a hell of a level. And certain schools can recruit from those games, and other schools can't really recruit from those games, but they all have the title of Division One. So I always like to distinguish. I have three things. I say SEC, Major Division One, Mid-Major Division One. It's
Yeah.
three Division Ones, and the way I'm seeing it, the way I'm looking at it. And then on the travel ball side, it's the same thing. But you said it, the rich get richer. So like the SEC can afford to be great. They have the resources, they have the stadiums, they have the money, they have the, instead of getting two pairs of sneakers and two sweatsuits, you're getting 5 pairs of sneakers and 10 sweatsuits. However, travel ball is the same. It's the rich guys that are able to create these organizations that compete for national championships every year. It's the rich guys because they can say you don't have to pay because I have 100
That
teams. I have 100 more teams that are paying for you to play, or I can play out of
that
my
is
pocket.
that is interesting, isn't it? I have heard the word scholarship used in the travel ball
Oh, of
world.
course,
Is
especially for
just
pitchers. So
yeah. Tell your kid if she doesn't have money, we can scholarship her. And I'm thinking,
even if you have
wait a
money,
minute,
I'm
when?
scholarshiping you. I'm
Yeah,
scholarshiping even
when?
if you do have money because guess what? You're a good pitcher. Come over here for free.
Yeah,
Why are you over there paying?
yeah. When did that
I'll
become
fly your family.
When did
I'll
that
fly your
become
family
legal?
too. It's happening in
Or
baseball. I don't even know. Look, it's happening in baseball. It's been happening in child baseball,
yeah,
but I don't. So it's hard for a team to say I'm going to compete when you literally have to charge money because you have to pay those bills. But I'm gonna tell you right now. Look. So here's what makes Brittany Lewis's championship sweet. She just won PGF Nationals with Mojo Lewis. Like
mhm.
she's not doing it that way, and she still won a national championship. So it's possible, but it's harder. You know what I'm saying? It's harder. But she built that from those kids, I remember when they were 12, 13, 14, she kept them together. It's possible. I'm sure some kids got picked off by some of the bigger organizations that have all throw their money around a little bit, but it becomes difficult to compete when you so that's why there's that top on top of the top. In the super elite top 8, top 10, whoever they are, the people behind those programs are they got some money. They got money to throw around. So I don't have to charge you money to play on my team. Let's go. Your family too. The dog too. The dog. You want to fly the dog? Bring the dog with you. Let's go. Let's travel. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah,
Um, but I think some of and then obviously you have those diamonds in the rough at some of those other lesser teams. That kids that just kind of stick around and they're just loyal. But the values of the value systems have clearly changed, and it's clearly that mentality and that mindset is what's going into college.
yeah,
So that's gonna be there. That element's there. That element starts in travel ball. That whole element starts in travel ball. Travel ball is feeding college.
yeah. I've done in the past. I have a kind of a PowerPoint and a presentation on the college recruiting process, and it's for kids and teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going in. I'm revamping that. I'm going to have to redo it because and I'm going to say in the last 4 years, the dynamics have changed so much that what used to be the method or the foundation for recruiting has really changed, and the rules have changed. The NCAA rules have changed, so that changes what you do from a recruiting standpoint when you're a kid. So yeah, I've got to redo that and
Mm-hmm.
put it back up on the website.
So
Somebody's going to have to teach me about social media though, because the Twitters and the Instagrams and the TikToks and all of that stuff is that's the recruiting world nowadays. There is hardly no such thing as send a coach an email. I'm not sure coach even looks at email anymore.
I think the social media piece contributes to exposure, right? Because it tells a story. you can go through a timeline of a kid and scroll back a year and see the story. Oh, they were on this team. Oh, they went to that tournament. Oh, I can see where their swing started to get better. I can see where their pitching got better. I can see the growth. I can go back in time and just scroll and say, oh, there I can, and then you kind of get to know a kid through social media to an extent, and it may want you to want to know more. So I think in that respect, social media has really been proven to be important in that whole process of recruitment. But
Do you
also,
think the social media, the ease of access and the cost, which is no cost, has that really put a dent in the scouting services?
no, because there are people who are actually doing the work as student athletes, and then there are people that want other people to do the work for them.
Yeah, I think it's always
But
been that way.
but I feel like the people who are doing the work themselves um, turn out to be better in terms of college material because they have a sense of independence. They have a sense of they're go getters and they're figure it out type of kids. And they post to themselves. They write their own emails. They do their own college applications. They have this independence. They book and schedule their own hitting and pitching lessons. You can see it with your kids. You got kids who probably book their own pitching lessons on their own.
Yeah, I think I could go over here and look at my little board here where I got everybody ranked according to speeds or spins, and then I've got next to them the name of the college they went to, assuming they're graduated and stuff like that. You can go down that list and you just say, yeah, I understand why that kid got recruited, why that kid got recruited to a big P5. That kid did the work. And she had parental support or direction.
And guidance.
Yeah.
But she still had to have that sense of independence because that's gonna translate into I can survive the college transition. I can survive it. I can navigate it because I've navigated things before. I got here. My parents put me in a position with the support, but they didn't do it for me. And I can see it. I can see it work out. Like that kid's gonna succeed.
Yeah.
That kid's gonna struggle a little bit, but then hopefully they'll figure it out. That kid doesn't have a shot unless her parents back off and let her figure some things out.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge part of it. So, and that transcends talent, because talent is talent, but like that whole mindset thing is a real thing. And speaking of that, I wanted to talk to you about like on the talent side of things.
Oh, I'm waiting for
it. What do you think is the thing that when I see a pitcher for the first time, or when you see a pitcher for the first time, and I'll tell you what it is on the hitting side. If a 14-year-old kid comes in and, she got recommended by this person, somebody's identified her, she's got all the phone calls from all the big teams, but she's still 14 and kind of young, and all the big teams have already contacted her and talked to her parents for an hour, and they're about to snatch her up, and obviously she starts to realize, hey, a lot of the pretty good pitchers have been coming to this guy named Dr. Rick Pauly, and you get her in for that first session. Do you know in the first lesson? And if you do know, how do you know? Why do you know?
You know what? This will be a little bit egotistical, and of course, it will be coming for me. But I can almost tell after the third pitch. It doesn't take me a full lesson. I'm going to watch. I'm going to try to be quiet when they're doing their warm up, but I can almost tell what kind of a challenge this kid will be, or hey, let's do your best job not to ruin this kid because she's got it. If you've seen it and you know what it is, and if you've been around it, a big fancy word, it's pretty easy to recognize it. Okay, and it comes down.
What is it?
Do they twitch fast, and are the mechanics good? How's that? I just made I made a terrible comment to somebody this morning talking about students and stuff like that. And how do you determine how you take a student on as a student, and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I've made up my mind. I'm not taking on any more three-toed sloths
What?
because yeah,
What's that?
I'm not taking on any more three-toed sloths.
Explain
Uh,
that.
a three-toe sloth moves slow.
Hmm.
Okay. I've been studying a guy who's I think is, boy, I got to keep studying this guy more. Dr. Stuart McGill. He's the number one spine athletic specialist in the world, I guess. And he made a comment. I happen to be lucky enough to be on a Zoom call with him, and he looks at me and he says, some kids just picked the wrong sport, or they picked the wrong activity. And this is a guy that has worked with the best of professionals and Olympians and everything. And some kids pick the wrong sport, or some pick the wrong
I
activity.
want to go back to that spine thing. I
Yeah.
don't want to forget it. I want to write it down. Don't let me forget. But I want to tell you one of the things that, from a hitting standpoint, when they come in the door, first time I met a kid, how I know that this kid can be as good as she wants to be,
Okay.
and she can go as far as she wants to take it if she stays the course and she does the right things, right? Because it's all about decisions and where where you go in the path too. But being able to identify the special ones, right? When I ask a hitter to do, obviously she's got to be athletic, obviously. But
Yeah.
when I ask a kid to do something in the one time, and they can do it within the first 3 times they do it,
Yeah.
that says a lot about their athletic IQ
Yeah.
or their aptitude for moving. And I call those kids, I have a term that I call, I don't know if anybody else is, I don't know if I made this word up or not, but I call it I call it physical ingenuity. And I call those kids physical geniuses. And when I see it, when I run into a physical genius, and you can identify a physical genius at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. So they can do whatever they want. They could go master and do whatever they want. They're just physical geniuses. And then I actually know, okay, this kid right here, she can be as good as she wants to be. There's not going to be really too much of a limit. It's just what moves are they going to make as a family, what decisions and choices, and who they're going to get around. Are they going to get around the right developmental people that can help them on the mental side? 'Cause a lot of it's here. And a lot of the things that I'm identifying, what I'm noticing is that it's the kitchen table talk. It's the stuff that happens at home. It's the conversations at home that make those special kids special. Because you can go to lessons, and I'm finding a lot with this, Rick. You can go to lessons and learn how to do the swing. I can do the swing because I can learn that. But I can do the pitch. But can I do it? Can I compete and do it? And sometimes when it's time to compete, those same kids that really could do it in a lesson, in a bullpen, in front toss in the cage, can't do it when it's time to actually compete. But when I do front toss with certain kids, they're competing in the front toss. I can see their face. I can see it in their facial muscles and their facial expressions. They're competing on tee work. They're trying to do damage on tee work. They're not just going through the motion of the swing. They're actually trying to crush on this tee. And it's something about that. It's an internal thing that
Intrinsically motivated. Yeah. Some kids have it, some don't.
And some don't. So you
Yeah.
can master the technique of it. But the kid that doesn't have the technique, that has that oomph, that competitiveness, is going to beat you every time.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be her will over your will, because you have no will in that situation.
Well, I know you've heard me say this before. I'll probably repeat it again, though. Sorry.
Yep.
But I'm actually going to go to a local tournament this weekend, Saturday afternoon. It'll be the first one that college coaches can be at this year because the recruiting calendar opens up on Saturday. And this is in our area. This will be one of the better recruiting tournaments of the year. So I'm going to go because I got several girls will be pitching in it and that kind of stuff. But I know I will not be able to take my coach hat off, my college coach hat off, my recruiting hat off. I'll walk up to a ball field. I'll look at a girl pitching. And like I said, I will know within 2 pitches if I would stick around and recruit her if I was a college coach. And probably whether or not I'm going to stick around for much more than an inning to watch that game. Now, maybe the girl on the other team throws pretty good, so I'm going to stick around. But I think it just sticks out like a sore thumb. You either have it or you don't have it.
So what would be the deal breaker? Okay, ready? You're an SEC coach.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, and I can do the same thing hitting. And that's how I know how to be honest with kids and say, okay, you might be shooting too high. You might be trying to be something that you're probably not going to be.
Uh-huh.
And this is who you are, and this is what you're going to be. You should probably put your focus here. But a lot of kids get around people who don't tell them that, or are not honest with them, to tell them what schools they should be shooting for. And then they usually miss their window to go play where they should have been trying to play. Because they were trying to go somewhere where I'm talking camp money and flights and hotels to go to. Like if you're batting, like for me, my thing is like this: if you're batting 7th or 8th on your travel team, you're not going to Florida.
Yeah,
like you're not. You're just not. I mean, you can go there.
Yeah,
but you're not playing there. And I think that's and it's okay though. Let's find out where you should be going to camps, where you can play, where it's more of an athletic match than an academic match. Because a C+ student is not going to apply to Princeton.
Oh, they might apply,
but they wouldn't. They would be like, I'm not Princeton. But for some reason, these players are like, I can go. How can you go? You just had a hat trick last game against a pitcher throwing 52. You just had a hat trick. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like it's just the unrealistic approaches to the recruitment process.
So, well, let me ask you now on the hitting side before I burst into the pitching side. How do you tell a kid that they're not Division I material or you're not P5 or P4 now?
I tell them.
How do you say, hey, you're not that good?
You're not P5. I tell them you're not good enough. And what I'll say is I said if you worked harder, it could be possible, but because you're not even willing to put the work in, so you either have to change your work ethic and make it possible, right? Or if you keep your same work ethic, here's where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
I have to tell them. I mean, I don't care if they don't believe me or if they get mad. I can't care if they get mad. I have to tell them the truth. And the people that come in, they already know. If you don't want to know the truth, don't come work with me. Because I'm going to tell you, that swing's not fast enough. You're not good enough on the outside pitch. You're chasing too many pitches in front toss. If I throw you a ball, a front toss that's a ball, why are you chasing it? Oh, but I don't chase it in the game, though. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I like to.
You got to have discipline for a high level, to be a high level hitter. You can't hit at a high level if you're a chaser.
I like to think I'm nicer than you, Rob.
It's not about being nice. I'm not saying it in a mean, mad, bad way. But I have to tell people no. If they trust me, you're coming to me. You're spending money to come and hit with me. That's a level of trust. And if I'm honest with you and I'm transparent with you, you should respect that trust. That you should respect that honesty. That's a trust thing. And I've always been that way since the day I started because I've never changed who I am. And if you want to go with somebody that's going to tell you that you can go to LSU, then go ahead. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to do. I'm not doing that.
I like to steer them into them making up their own mind. like I say, I keep pointing over here. I got that whole great big list, and
Yeah.
I got them top to bottom speeds, and here's the schools they're going to, and a dad is going to ask me this, or a mom. Well, do you think she's D1 material, or do you think she's P5 material? And I'll say, well, let's go over here and look at my list, and I start up at the top, and of course it's got the 70, 68, 67, 66 mile an hour girls, and the schools they're going to. And I'll kind of get down to, I say, you see the speeds these girls are throwing and where they're going to college. These are the colleges that you're asking me about. Now, Susie is at the speed right here. Now, it's possible she's going to gain a little speed because of my excellent coaching, right? And if she works hard. But if she doesn't go from 58 to 65 or 64 at least, she probably isn't going to get a look up here. So you determine, do you think she can get that far? And I think I think they appreciate the fact I didn't say, hey, your kid sucks. She's never going to be that good. Here's where she is at. Here's where she needs to be. And me, I'm a hater on the fact that in the whole recruiting thing with pitching now, it's like coaches just go gaga over speed. And, I know that speed is important, but it's not quite the holy grail I think some of the coaches make it out to be. But I can walk on the other side of my mouth. I walk right over to this thing and the kids that are throwing fast. Now, I like to egotistically say my kids that throw fast know how to make a ball move too, and they can hit a spot. So I think they're a little different than your kid that can just throw fast.
And I think everybody has their own approach to it. And I'm not telling that to a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, or 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Right?
You would hope that a dad
I'm,
wouldn't ask about a 10 or 12-year-old,
oh,
but they
no,
do.
believe me, trust me. And sometimes if it's a kid is 12, 13, 14, I'm like, this kid's going big time. I know she's going big. I know it. And I'm willing to bet on me as a coach to get her there.
Yeah.
But you got to show up. Because I'm not betting on you without me in the picture, because I know what I can do if you show up.
Yeah.
I know what I can do for you if you show up. So I'm always betting on me as somebody who I know I can develop. Because you got people who coach good athletes, then you have people who develop good athletes.
Yeah,
There's a difference.
big difference.
There's a difference. Yep. And it obviously is easier to coach good players than it is to develop good players. But I've taken kids who were not good to very good. And I've taken kids that were very good to elite, because I pride myself in the developmental process. That's who I am. I have to be able to see where you are, but I also have to be able to see beyond where we are today to see where we can go. That takes foresight. And I'm drawing on my experience to do that. For the last 27 years of my life, this has been my only full-time job.
Let me ask you a question now.
Only full-time
job. You can let your ego flow on this one right here,
I can, yeah, absolutely.
Here we go. So you got a 14-year-old that comes in and she's doing hitting lessons with you, and you're saying to yourself, well, this kid is never going to be a D1. Now, do you continue to work and try to make her D1, or what do you do with her?
So I only have one standard.
Mm-hmm.
So the worst kid to the best kid is getting my very best.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bring myself down in what I'm telling her, because she's only gonna be, I'm quoting, only gonna be D3, or only gonna be, or she's only I have kids that are just high school players. They don't want to play in college. They just want to be good for high school. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it's not about that for me. It's really not. Like I don't have an ego in that sense. Like, oh, I gotta only work with the best kids. I only want the best kids. I actually want the worst kids, so that when they go out and they're better, it's more rewarding for me. Way more rewarding.
It is.
Way more rewarding.
It is. It's rewarding. It really is.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I've always been. That's where I'm at with it, because for me, it's
So let me ask you a question, because you always ask me questions about pitching and what are college coaches looking for when they go out and look at a pitcher. I think they're all looking at speed. I'll just shorten that up real quick. What one criteria do they look at in hitting? What's their number one criteria? And I'm talking hitting, not whether they're they
I
dress
can't
nice
speak.
or
I honestly,
whatever.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't speak for some of these college coaches. I mean, it's obvious if somebody can hit, and if somebody can hit, whether they can hit or not. But I want to be sure. I want to be able to, with certainty, I can say they probably want to see their hitters compete against some of the better pitchers, so that they can kind of identify. Because if you go if you go 8 for 8, if I watch you go 8 for 8 against a mediocre pitcher, that doesn't really tell me how good you are.
If a kid goes
So
gets bad pitching and hits 5 out of 5 home runs, is that kid going to get a college scholarship, or when's it going to?
I don't think it could be statistical, because statistics, obviously statistics don't always show you the whole story, right? They don't always tell you the whole story. So and to be honest, sometimes I see colleges take kids and I'm like, really? Sometimes I see colleges not take kids and I'm like, wow. So to be honest with you, I kind of feel like the majority of college coaches don't even know what they're doing on the recruiting side. They just don't. And they're missing out on kids that can actually hit. They're missing out.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And then at the same token, there are people who are just really good recruiters. Everybody's not a good recruiter. Some people are really good at identifying that kid's going to be a hitter. Because you got all these kids that played on these national championship teams that are sitting in college. They're not getting opportunities because they're not getting it done against better talent, against the better talent. And they're sitting, and then they go in the portal, and they keep. So there's so many things with hitting that it's really hard. But for me, I got 3 things. I can speak for me, how I know who's going to sit. I can tell a kid, you're going to sit in school if you don't fix this. I'm glad you committed to this big time school. Congratulations. You earned that, I guess. But if you don't fix these 3 things, you will sit.
Yeah.
Number 1, you have to know and understand the adjustability of the stride and the trigger of your swing. You have to be able to get it down on time. And that's usually about when the ball's at least a third away from home plate. If you're
do you mean a pitcher would throw a different speed or a different movement or a different location at it here on purpose?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
So if they don't figure that out and how to manage it and adapt and adjust it to different pitchers and different pitcher types, they're going to struggle on the timing side of it. Number 2, you have to be able to zone down. You cannot chase high. You can't chase high. You cannot cover the entire strike zone in terms of what the book says it should be. You have to zone down. And if you don't have the ability and the discipline and the recognition skills and the eyeballs to do it, you are not big time. You're a step down from that. So maybe you're not SEC. Maybe you're major Division 1. Maybe you're not major Division 1. Maybe you're mid-major. And there's another tier of D1 below mid-major, if you really want to get technical.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So there's levels for everyone, but I think eyeballs play a really crucial part in it. Eyeballs and just overall cognition, which I'm training and teaching. The third one, you got to hit it out front. Some of these kids are making contact way too deep. And the deeper you hit it, your exit velo is going to take a hit as you hit balls deeper. And most kids don't understand the contact space like pitching coaches and pitchers understand it. That's the problem. Pitching coaches and pitchers understand when to make the ball move, but the hitters who don't understand when the barrel has to hit the ball and what space that happens in, the people who don't understand that can't hit higher level pitching because those pitchers are manipulating when the ball moves, when it moves. So you don't see that movement until it gets in that window, and there's a very, very small decision-making window.
Had that exact example last night in a lesson. Got a young lady, talented young lady, and can make the ball move. And she's just now in the 16 age group. And I'm trying to get her to make her ball move later, sharper. And the question came up, well, she likes to use her shoulder a little bit on that curveball. Is that okay? And I said, you know what? At the level you're at right now, you might get by with it. But as you go up in levels, no, it's not. Because your shouldery curveball displays when it's going to break 30 feet from home plate. You won that, your shoulders get sturdy and the ball goes straight, and all of a sudden, zoop, that's when you can throw in college and get by with. But your big old swoopy, 10-foot curving pitch, yeah, that's good at 12s and 14s. It becomes less and less and less and less effective as you move up the ladder.
And I feel bad sometimes.
After what?
I said sometimes I feel bad.
Oh.
When I have a kid that has committed to a school that perhaps has a winning tradition. Because schools with winning traditions are not just going to put you on the field because you're on the team. Like, they may go as deep as 11 people that actually get in at bat. Maybe 12. And you could very well have 20 hitters on the team. And the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th hitter are never going to smell the batter's box.
Yeah.
Ever. And I don't know if people really grasp that when they're walking around with the sticker on their helmet and the visor. Like, you got to work, dude. You're going to sit.
Well,
you got to work. You ain't ready.
I was just having an interchange conversation with a parent, and the daughter's a junior, and she's got a couple offers. And I'm going to say they're nice ones, okay? And one of them I felt like was, on the top of her wish list, okay? And I said, well, gosh, does that mean she's leaning that way? And the parent said, well, I'm not sure. We did some investigating. We found out they have 9 pitchers on their roster.
God.
And I said, God. And I went through the mathematics, okay? So I got to read them off to you because I'm prepared here today. I'm telling you. So if you're, a D1 school, you might play 4 games a week. That's 28 innings, right? Because you're going to play 3 on a weekend if you're an SEC, and you're going to have 1 midweek game. That's a grand total of 4 times 7 is 28 innings, right? Your number 1 girl is at least going to probably throw 14 of those innings.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is at least going to throw 7 of those innings. So you got a number 3 and a number 4 that are splitting the other 7. So what do 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 get to do? Throw batting practice during practice time? I mean, there aren't enough innings to go around. So you either better work your butt off and be somewhere up around number 1 or 2, or you better find a school that needs a pitcher.
Okay. And here's what I like what you said, and that's really good because you broke it down perfectly. But what I'm going to say to that kid, in addition to that, if they call me, then if they're my next phone call after they call you, and you told them that, oh, let's call Rob and see Rob. I'm going to say this: if you worried about how many pitchers are on the team, then you're not confident enough in yourself.
You're not confident in yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
you're
that's
not
true.
Even confident enough in yourself. If you're going around looking at who's committed here, well, they just took a pitcher. They just took a shortstop. I thought they were looking at me. They could take more than 1 pitcher. They could take more than 1 shortstop. I don't care if there's 50 shortstops. I'm gonna beat them all out. They can all sit. Or they're going to play somewhere else. Because I know what I'm about to do. Where's that? Where's that mentality?
Well, my mentality says I will tell those people, I said, I would, in wherever your final selection is, I would make sure that you feel like your skill level is such that you're going to be number 1 or number 2. Because number 3 and number 4 don't pitch much, and number 5 and 6 don't hardly pitch ever, unless you got catastrophic injury or something like that. So yeah, you got to have confidence in yourself. Have confidence or know yourself. What level am I? You know, I could be an All-American at D2, or I could sit the bench at a D1. What do I want to do? You know, I know what I want to do, but I can't have them do what I want.
That's where I'm at, man. I'm like, dude, these kids got to start learning how to bet on themselves. They keep going on social media and comparing themselves to everybody. You know, and that's dangerous. That's dangerous for their brains, their young, fragile brains. Yeah, it's getting kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, those are my big 3. Like, you know, if you're struggling with those 3 things, you know, at any competitive level, you're in trouble. So for me, when my kids come in, I'm spending most of my time on those things. And I like what you said about when you identify that talented kid, it's really going to be about not messing them up.
Yeah. Sometimes that is your biggest challenge. You know, your instruction is you're trying to fine tune and tweak. You're not in there with a meat axe trying to, you know, chop them apart and build them back up and that kind of stuff. You know, those kids don't walk into your place every day, but when they do, you got to recognize it.
Because I'm not trying to fix anybody, to be honest. I'm trying to find out where you are, how you kind of naturally need and want to move, and work within that framework to see if we can develop some sort of consistency and mainly develop an approach. If I got a 16-year-old kid that walks in the door and I know I'm going to have her once a week for the next 2 or 3 years before she goes to school, then we have to develop an approach to hitting that's hers, that she owns. So when she goes to college and they try to change her swing, which they probably will or won't, depends on who, but at least she can fall back to her approach and say, well, they want me to do this, and she can say, okay, that doesn't really fit into what I know about hitting and what I know hitting to be. But if I can be on time, fast, and create really pretty good bat path, I can hit inside of any hitting model. It doesn't matter. But a lot of players get to school in that transitional phase from coming out of travel ball going in fall to college season. Everything sounds so different to them, and it shouldn't, but it does. That they think that they can hit, and they think it's new. And a lot of times, it's not even the new coach is not even saying anything different. They're just saying it in a different way, and a lot of kids get a little bit have a little bit of anxiety behind that. But as long as when I try to do this for my kids, as long as you can articulate your approach to your coach and have the conversation that you should have had before you got there anyway. But
very good point there. Yes.
You should have had the conversation before you got there so you can kind of know, oh, there's no way.
If you want to go there, yeah.
I mean, there's no way I'm going over there with that hitting coach or with that pitching coach because this is not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, and you just have to know that. But you got to have those conversations. But if you can articulate your approach to your coach, and you have a coach that's willing to kind of, I would say, buy into you as a player, the same way as a player you should buy into your coach's hitting system or hitting model. I think buy-in is always it should be buy-in should be a two-way street. The days of my way or the highway are gone.
No, they're not.
And they're not coming back.
You wish they were gone.
I'm saying, in reality, they're gone.
You wish they were gone.
In reality, they're gone. They are. But in some people's minds, they're not. And you got a
Yeah.
kid sitting on the bench. All you had to do was have a hitting talk with that kid, and she'd be your best hitter. But you're trying to force her into this little hole that you created as a coach that's from the 80s when you played. And you just took a whole, dude, it's happening in the pro ball. Pro athletes are like, dude, this is my pro career. I'm not listening to that guy. I got my own guy. And a lot of these minor leaguers are like, I'm not putting my career in the hands of somebody who's incompetent. And they shouldn't. And girls aren't going to do it either. 19, 20, 21-year-old girls are way smarter going into college now than they were 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
They know their bodies and their swings. They know stuff. So if your coaches don't know nothing, they're going to be like, did you just say that? I just lost all respect for you.
Yeah.
I just lost all respect.
Well, that's why one of my encouragements when kids are out, on the recruiting trail is do whatever you can. If you're thinking you've got 2 or 3 really favorite schools, get to their camp where you get to see that coach up close and personal versus that coach standing out here, behind the screen, and you never get to interact with that coach.
That's true.
But get up there close and personal. Personality-wise, can you even get along with that coach? And secondly, does that coach sort of talk a language that you understand? It doesn't have to be the exact same language, but is there a framework that works there? And do you think that coach understands that I might be a little bit different than Susie over here or Jeannie here, and that I might need to be instructed differently, or what works for me doesn't work for her, or vice versa. I guess that's maybe a cry a little bit on both sides of the equation here, but definitely to your college coaches is, do you have, like you said, do you have a 1980 hole that you're going to slam everybody through, or do you have this kind of a world vision?
Right. And I think hitting and pitching has evolved. I'm gonna tell you right now, next year is gonna be so much different than this year. And this year is so much different than last year. At least for people like us.
I'm telling you right now,
we're always learning. I'm always blown away by how much I'm gonna know in 6 months because of who I am as a coach and how I chase truth, how I pursue truth. And
I think I have a list this long of, oh man, I got to learn more about this, and I got to learn more about this, and oh my God, there's a new thing here I got to learn something about. I got to know something about the spine now. I got to know something about, what's their preference when they were born, and oh my God.
And
so
if
you're done being curious, you should get out of the business.
The spine. You reminded me. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we came full circle here.
So, over the last few years, and this is why technology for me has been so important. Digging into it, taking the time, staying up late to dig into what the technology is telling me that's happening. And I love it when the technology can tell me things that the human eye or even a camera can't tell me. When technology has the ability to go under the hood of the car and see the intricacies and the nuances of what causes what, the cause and effect stuff. And we've talked about this before, even on this podcast, we've had this conversation. The players that are the most efficient movers, the better sequencing movers, the players with better deceleration points in the segments. On the spine side, those people they have the most spine stability.
Stability.
They're gonna score higher in like the 95 percentile and up when we look at the stability of the spine. And I can't stress it enough that one of the biggest identifiers for how good you can be at the next level is going to be that spine stability, because that says a lot about everything from the ground that happened, in the middle of the body that happened, and how it's going to affect vision and how we see the field. The spine is such, and a lot of times our kids just aren't strong enough to stabilize it. And they may have a mobility issue, they may have whatever issue going on. But when I found that out, it changed the way because I was able to compare. I was able to say, well, all the best hitters that I'm working with the hardest exit velos, and the easiest swings with the hardest exit velos, have certain things in common, and that spine thing is one of them.
Yeah, I'll bet you when you do a 4D motion capture on a kid and you bring up their metrics page, I bet the first place your eyes go is over there where it says stability. And you're looking for a kid that's what, 95% to 100% stable.
Always.
Yeah, as the bat's in the hitting zone. Yeah, and I'm looking for the same thing as they're letting go of a pitch. How stable are they?
I'm going spine stability all day because it tells me everything I need to know. It doesn't
tell me everything, but it tells me a lot.
Well, let me tell you this. Because if it's bad, it's telling me a lot, because I know, okay, we got work to do, right? And if it's good, I'm like, we're on the right track.
Yeah.
We're on the right track. Now, because that means a lot of other things are happening right.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm curious to know, like, for you, what were some of the things that, if you had to say the number one thing with the spine, the new guy you're following, the spine doctor, what's one thing that you would say? Okay, when you heard this from him, you were like, wow.
He uses a term. It's really simple. One little word. It's called pulsing, and it's when you're going to deliver the biggest impact, whether you're a boxer and it's your Bruce Lee 2-inch punch, or if it's your bat hitting a ball, or it's your release, is your muscles that support and stabilize your spine. They do a pulse. In other words, he uses a simple word, stiffen. You stiffen the core, and it's a nanosecond. It's not like you stiffen the core halfway through the swing or whatever. It's just you're relaxed right before you do whatever the power move is. You pulse. And I'm working a lot more on that than I used to.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I was thinking about this last night. I got up like 3:30 in the morning. I got up. I came out my computer, and I was like getting my thoughts together, like around what I want to talk to you about, right? So one of them was that hitting space, and the other one was what you just said. But I chickened out about talking about it because I'm like, he's not gonna understand what I'm talking about if I go into that.
Oh man, try me, man.
and then I'm like, the people that are out there aren't gonna get it. They're gonna think I'm going too deep, right? But they're gonna think about he's going too deep. But so I was thinking about, so when a pitcher, so there's two important parts of the pitching delivery that I think, and there's two important parts of the actual swing, I think, where the hitter and the pitcher experience this at two different times in the timeline of the ball being released to contact. From the time the ball gets released from the pitcher to the time contact happens, there's a timeline, right? But on the pitcher's timeline, at what moment would you say that happens?
Well,
at what moment does it usually happen? If you had to put it in a moment, or in a certain moment where the body would be, what's that moment when the stiffening happens?
I'll tell you what. There's could be several pulses along a whole pitch. like your initial thrust off the rubber. That's a
Okay,
pulse.
that's one.
When your stride foot hits the ground, boy, you better have a pulse, or you're
Two.
going to fold up like a cheap
Stride
tent.
foot down.
Okay, and then I think then the final pulse is when you're about this far from release. It's bam.
Okay.
It's right there. It's
That's it.
yeah,
Okay, so that last one is the one I was thinking
Yeah.
about. The last one.
yeah, yeah.
And I never really considered the first two, but I'm glad you said it. So now for hitters, that pulse. Oh God, we hit it. We're in tune. Because I'm telling you, I got up at 3:30 this morning, and I was saying this.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
You know
was
what they
too.
call
I
that?
was
They
too,
call
but
that-
I was dreaming about it. I was sleeping while I did it.
No, but seriously, you know what they call that in quantum mechanics? They call that quantum entanglement.
Oh, yeah.
So quantum entanglement is when it's basically the singularity of thoughts and how thoughts are connected in two different places. Because
Yeah.
a thought, the energy and vibrational patterns of a thought don't consider time and space. So there's really no distance. Because the present, the past, and the future are the same, are happening at the same time.
Mm.
We're just experiencing them. We're experiencing them on a timeline, but they're all happening at the same time. If anybody wants to go look at that up, you can go research quantum entanglement and the theory of quantum entanglement and what it means and how it really. Right now I'm working on something where I'm relating it to sports, and I'm relating it to recognition in time. But here's where that stiffening happens on a swing. Okay, so it happens right there, right there.
There.
If you don't have video and you're not watching the podcast, it happens right when, just before contact.
Yeah.
Just before contact happens. And I'm going to tell you how I explain it to my kids. So if anybody's driving in a car and they have a player with them in the car who's 13 years old or younger, you might want to cover their ears.
Okay.
But listen, this is important. At that moment of that pitching, at the last one you said for pitchers, the third one,
Yeah.
and the one that I just identified for hitters, at that moment, a hitcher and a pitcher has to have a certain level of FU.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to
You got to get after it.
You have to have an FU. And that's the competitive part, and you're tapping into something different. It's a heart thing. It's not just doing the movement, because if you're just doing the movement, the stiffening is different. But if you got some FU on that pitch and you got some FU on that swing, I'm telling you right now, that's the moment. That's that nanosecond of a moment where I don't know if you can teach that. Like, you got that at home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost, I'm going to say it's like a mentality, or
It's innate.
Right?
It's innate. That's
It's a
what it is.
twitch
Yep.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And,
Well, here's another
Yep.
thing with it, Rob, is the pulse, the stiffening.
Yep.
And it is short, quick, boom. So your elite athletes, your elite pitchers, your elite hitters, they can hit that stiffen button or that pulse button really quickly, like 3 times faster than a normal person can. Okay. Guess what else they do faster than a normal person? By about 4-fold. They can relax faster. Their muscles will relax faster. So it's pulse relaxed, pulse relaxed. So you have to be able to relax. You can't go through a whole swing tighter than a banjo string. You got to relax.
You got.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't really work with pitchers, but the other night I was talking to the pitchers about this. It was about maybe 4 or 5 pitchers, and I was like, I called it gas pedal. So do you know who Lynn Coots is? You know Lynn Coots?
Don't think so.
Shout out to Lynn Coots. So back in 1990, I want to say 1997 or 1998.
So Rob, you got so excited about this, you got so close, I can only see your eyebrows.
I'm sorry.
There you go. Oh,
Okay,
no,
I'm sorry.
yeah, no.
So back in back, Lynn Coots and her husband Mike Coots, shout out to them. So Lynn was the head softball coach at the University of Maine at the time, and her husband Mike Coots was the head baseball coach. No, sorry, he was the pitching coach for Maine's baseball team, University of Maine. As we do this podcast, Mike Coots, who's recently converted over to softball from baseball, he is now the head coach at Rhode Island.
Oh,
Currently, head softball coach at Rhode Island. His wife Lynn was a athletic director at, I think it was either Colorado or Colorado State, something like that. I don't remember. But anyway, I love these guys. I love them both. And we were studying when I learned biomechanics back then. When people laughed at us when we mentioned biomechanics, they laughed at us. Now everything's biomechanics. So back then, we were students of biomechanics and we were learning. And I had to learn pitching. I had to learn overhand throwing. So I've worked with baseball pitchers. I've worked with so I have that in my background. And we used to talk about this thing, this gas pedal moment. And we used to say it because remember, a lot of what we're doing is not really what we know, but how we can effectively communicate it. So if you know your stuff, if you're good, you have the knowledge as a coach. Now it's all about how can I effectively communicate it so that the third grader, the ninth grader, and the collegiate athlete can all understand it in one cue or in one level of explanation. Then you become a master communicator. And by the way, that's what my certification is based on. My hitting certification is based on effective communication mostly.
Oh, yeah.
It's based on that. And teaching coaches how to communicate effectively and be more effective and whatnot. But we said you had to go from like 0 to 30% to 60% to 90, which would be the gas pedal, back to 0. Because a lot of baseball pitchers were getting hurt in the elbow because they never went back to 0. The stiffening lasted too long. And it put too much stress on the elbow.
Yeah.
So a lot of the elbow injuries were happening back then and probably still are today with a lot of young players because we were dealing with a lot of youth athletes, a lot of youth baseball players and stuff with the throwing. And it's funny because before the heavy weighted balls became popular, the Cubans were doing it. The Cubans kind of started it, actually, with the light ball. And they would have a progression. Lighter than the game ball, a little bit heavier, game ball, a little heavier than game ball, a little heavier than that, a little heavier than that. And not everybody believes in that, in the heavy balls and the weighted balls. But when you do them the right way, with the right strength levels, they can be effective for some athletes. It's just not. We're doing something now in today's world where we think everything has to work for everybody, or if we don't agree with something, we're like everything doesn't work for everybody. But the answer to almost every question is it depends.
Yeah,
that's the answer to almost every question.
Interesting. Yeah.
But that it brought me back as we were talking. It brought me back to when we were doing the biomechanics stuff, and we had that gas pedal terminology that we always talk about. That gas pedal, like when does gas pedal actually happen? Some kids are gas pedal too early in their load, in their counter rotation. They're a gas pedal. Okay, where do you go from there? Now, where do you go from there?
And that's our girls that they hit the gas with the arm swing on the upswing, and they're strong and muscled up going over the top when they ought to be relaxed there. Hit the gas when your arm gets down, past 9 o'clock. Start hitting.
Yeah, that's that moment, man. That's that moment.
Otherwise, you're going to have a long straight arm instead of bend and whip, and all that other good biomechanical stuff.
So let me ask you this, because we're an hour in. I'm not gonna make this two. You know why I'm not gonna make this 2 parts? Because I've gotten so much feedback. People stop me. Strangers stop me on the streets.
Yeah.
Man, we love it when you and Rick get together and do podcasts. Everybody loves them. So I'm leaving it an hour. This is good. This is good. This is good for the airplane. This is good for the car ride home.
Wow. Yeah.
throw on the Rob Cruz, Dr. Rick Pauly conversation.
This is good for when you wake up at 3 a.m, right?
That too, that too.
Yeah.
So, but I had one more thing. You got anything? Because I got one more thing that I wanted to ask
I'm
you.
just going to ask you one question
Go
before we
ahead.
leave. Are you going
Go
to be
ahead.
at the NFCA convention?
Okay, so what's crazy is I am going to be at the NFC convention. I love Dallas. Shout out to my friends down in the DFW, all my peoples,
Yeah.
um, and I'll get to hang out with them.
So then we're going to get to chat, and
Because you'll be there.
I'll be there. Sarah and I are going to go. I'm going to fly into Austin. We're going to drive up, and of course, we're going to work a little bit with the 4D folks there, and
Okay.
hobnob around. And
so I'll definitely see you there because I'm definitely coming. And
yeah.
I might be in and out, but I'll definitely be there.
Well, I just want you to remember that my favorite flavor is now mint mocha with the Starbucks. In case you're, wondering.
Mint
Get the
mocha.
hint?
I got you.
Mint
I'll make
mocha.
sure I bring you. I'll make sure I bring you some coffee. And
All
then
right, good man.
baseball, the ABCA is going to be in Washington D.C. this year in January.
Oh,
I
would.
haven't been to the ABCA, and I've been trying to get there. I almost went last year, so I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to try to make it over to ABCA because I got so many baseball friends, and a lot of softball people go to the ABCA.
Yeah.
And hear some of the speakers over there because it's really good. And then I think I'm speaking at the World Baseball Softball Clinic up at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
Oh, really?
I mean, I've done it before. I did it 2 years in a row years ago, but they're bringing me back this year. And I got some topics that are going to really ruffle some feathers. I can't wait to ruffle some feathers.
Oh, good.
We're gonna get people thinking a little bit differently. I need people that want to. For that one, I want us to think differently. We have to start to think differently.
Yeah.
We got to because we got to understand where the kids are.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to offline. I'm going to have to get some information on that one. That sounds like it might be a good one to attend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I mean, they always have pretty good speakers, and it's baseball and softball, 2 different rooms, but going on at the same time. I'm speaking for baseball, and I'm also speaking for softball. I think I'm doing 2 lectures for softball and 1 lecture for baseball. So,
oh, great.
It should be a fun time. And if anybody wants to meet me at the blackjack table, I'll get over there to the blackjack table a little bit too.
Yeah.
Not for very long. Hopefully it's long, but if it's short, it's short. I'm not going to prolong it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to prolong it. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that and getting to see the softball community at down in the DFW. Yeah. So that's all we got. Oh, there's one more thing I want to ask you, but you know what? Maybe I'll just save that for another time. But no, you know what? We're already here. So look, I called you the other day. I asked you about the ground force issue. And I should have asked you this, but I think I worded the question wrong. What are some of the ways that you can identify that a pitcher is not getting enough ground force? What does that look like?
Well, there's checkpoints you can do, if you're looking at video. Of course, I'm going to use a sensor and find out what's the peak linear velocity of their body moving off of the pitching rubber, and that's kind of like the great measuring stick, like a radar gun would be for ball speed. What's your initial peak linear speed of your body, because that's your first creation of energy. And if you create energy there, then you have it available to transfer. So, the deal is if you have good, if you use the ground right, if you drive right, not just does it get you off the pitching rubber fast, but it sets up your body for the postural positions that you want to be in. And in pitching or in hitting, there probably isn't anything more important than your posture. So, if your drive mechanics are not good, you can see it in their posture when they land, or especially when they get down the ball release. They'll have, things that look like a ninja or whatever that are just not good. And it starts with the the force that you put into the ground.
The force that you put into the ground initially before you go into that linear move.
Well, yeah, the force, you got 2 feet. So, both feet actually have to do something when you're driving and pitching. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just think, oh, it's your ball arm foot, your drive leg that does all the work. Not so. That stride leg is like a kickstarter for the whole process. And it's the one that's going to create the initial energy, and hopefully it creates enough energy to help the drive leg finish the deal. Okay, so yeah, both legs are important, depending on what kind of a person you are. Your stride leg might be the more dominant leg on your body. It might be your drive leg. Okay, it'd be beneficial to know that, to know where you should be maybe putting your focus, and it would probably help you to know that, because then you're gonna come off again and be in a good position or posture when you land.
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say. I want us to continue this conversation. I want to go into more depth on energy transfer
Mm-hmm.
and energy direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm having a thing. I got a thing happening right now with a lot of my hitters who they just want to pull their swing off. I just want to swing, coach. I just want to get my swing off. But they're not considering the feel of where the energy and what direction the energy should be going into.
Well, yeah, we could. That would take. We could go on for hours on that one. So we should do a separate segment
Yeah,
on
we got
that. How
definitely.
about the whole
I want to talk about that.
create the energy, the acceleration, the deceleration, the transfer of energy, and another acceleration, another deceleration. It's a whole, the kinetic chain thing.
I want to talk about that the next time
Yeah.
we get together. And I want to tell everybody who's out there in the podcast land, if you have any topics that you want us to talk about, send us an email. Send me an email. I'm at info@complete.game. info@complete.game. And where can they email you at, Rick?
Yeah, it's fhpauly@hotmail.com.
fhpauly@hotmail.com. And
Yeah.
that's where you can reach Rick and email him. And you got anything? I know you got the certification going. You got anything else that anything you got going on that's coming up? That people can sign up for or something like that, or you got anything popping?
No,
Anything coming up?
not really. I've cut back on the clinic stuff. I used to do like 6 or 7 clinics in the fall, winter, and I've two things. One is they're financially, it's not a good thing anymore, just because of travel costs and everything. And secondly, I'm trying to be a better person. I criticize college coaches a lot because they think they did a great thing to help kids get to be able to take time off and not wear themselves out and be injured when they come to college and stuff like that. So they thought they cut down the recruiting calendar, which they did, but then they backfilled it with college camps. I'm trying not to be that person that wears a kid out in November and December and January when they ought to be recouping. So there's another whole little rant we could go on.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
But that's again, that's good. That's true. Truth is truth.
Yep, it's fact.
Truth
Yeah,
is truth.
it's a fact. Yeah.
There it is. You heard it from the doctor himself.
All right.
So we're going to sign out. Thank you all for listening. Have a good one.
Take care.